Hello everybody, and welcome to another reaction video. Don't know why I started it like that, mixing it up a bit. Anyway, welcome to another reaction video, and today we're going to be reacting to a band called Alexisonfire. No spaces. I have heard of them before, but I've never actually heard any of their music as far as I know. So I did a quick look up about the band, and I really didn't find very much. I'm having really bad luck with research at the moment. Anyway, Alexisonfire is a Canadian post-hardcore band formed in St. Catharines, Ontario in 2001, so they've been around for a fair while. They describe the sound of their music as two Catholic schoolgirls in a knife fight. I'm really not sure what to make of that, because that could be a lot of... because that could mean a lot of screaming and hair pulling and name calling, or... well, I don't really know what else. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to be listening to a track called No Transitory. Couldn't find anything about the song. Had a quick look to see if I could find anything about it. Couldn't find a bloody thing. So, I'm going in blind. But, you know, we'll make of it what we can. I've got the lyrics up here, see what I can make out of it, as I usually try to do. I will put a link to the original video in the description below, as I normally do also. And I think we should just get straight into it. Not sure what to expect, so No Transitory by Alexisonfire. I'm not sure what to make of this. It's strange. It's strange. I mean, got a good voice. There, of course, was the start with that sort of... I call it the angsty scream, because it's not really gutturals and it's not really screaming. It just... I'm not sure how to explain it. It sounds like a teenager shouting at the parents. You know, the song the song itself seems to be about possibly depression, maybe suicidal thoughts. Not sure. I mean, the opening lines are, "I'm in a constant state of getting cut, so why don't I feel anything?" This could possibly be representative of self-harm, and the fact that you become so desensitized to it that you know, you just don't feel it anymore. Because the common misconception about self-harm is that people do it for attention, and this is the farthest thing from the truth. I mean, okay, you might get the occasional person who does do it for attention, but for the most part, people who self-harm hide it. And they do it because they feel so desensitized to the world around them that they want to feel something. They want to feel in control, as it were, as well, because you know, when you're in a state where you're like constantly getting hurt, and you know everything's constantly going wrong. You know, it feels like you're losing control of your life. You know, there's this feeling of, right, I want to find something that I can be control of. No one else has any say in this fact. You know, and so unfortunately self-harm does come into it, and you know, it's sort of like, you know, nobody's got a say in whether you do it or not. It's your own body, you're doing it to yourself. Boom. And like I said, most of the time they do it to try and feel anything. Like I was saying before, you know, when everything goes wrong repeatedly, constantly, you know, eventually you get to the point where it's like, you know, yep, it's happened again, big whoop, just carry on. You know, eventually you become so jaded and indifferent that you almost feel like you're turning cold, you're turning cynical. So, you know, they dig a blade or needle into their arm just so they can feel some sort of physical and emotional response to something. And it's, some people see it as a way to relieve stress, you know, because, you know, you get all this pent up anger and aggression, and, you know, some people punch walls, some people unfortunately hit a spouse or, you know, a partner, and this is just another way of letting out that frustration. You know, sticking a blade into your arm and just dragging it across the skin. It's one way of letting out your anger, your frustration, and that doesn't harm anybody except yourself, and you know, you're in control of it, so you know what you can deal with. I'm not saying it's acceptable, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just trying to correct the misconception about it. But this seems to be what it's about. And I've really been waffling along for a long time with that. But yeah, like I was saying, it could possibly be depression, because they're going like, so this is what they call another endless night. So tired of believing if this is wrong or right. I think this cause is lost. I wish that I could sleep. Oh, excuse me. I feel like some kind of shadow, another slave to the weak. Imagine if we lived under the weather, we would never be found, never discovered. So it's a common thing with people with depression that they can't sleep very well. And you know, it's a pain in the arse, because I mean, I myself, I suffer from a mental illness and severe depression, and I have suffered with insomnia for years, and it's really annoying. And eventually, you know, every day sort of melds into another one, and like he says, another slave to the weak. You know, you'll be awake so many days of the week that, you know, it all molds into one day, and before you know it, the week's gone. I feel like some kind of shadow, because you're permanently tired, and you know, you're just sort of drifting through life. Yeah. Imagine if we all lived under the weather, we would never be found or never discovered. If ever, you know, it's sort of saying, you know, we really shouldn't have to deal with being depressed, you know, because if we were all living the same way, being miserable and sad and reclusive, you know, nothing would ever happen. Anyway, we'll carry on.
Let's
Yeah. As I was saying before, it definitely seems to have something to do with self-harm. I mean, after we came back from my mad ramblings before, it said, and this knife, this is my most important appendage. It sounds like it's about self-harm and depression and stuff like that, and you know, I can appreciate the meaning behind that, because obviously I deal with depression myself, and so many other people do. And one thing I hate about it is that it's seen as a taboo subject. You know, nobody wants to talk about depression, and so many people don't think it's a real illness. People just think, oh look, he's a bit sad, just get over it. It's the worst thing you can say to a person with depression. It is the stupidest thing you can say to a person with depression, because you're basically saying, you know, you ain't got any problems, you're just sad. I tell you what, right? To you idiots that say that sort of thing, when your grandmother dies or your parent dies, God forbid that should ever happen, I'm not wishing it would. But when that happens and you're upset that your loved one has died, tell you what, just get over it. See how easy that is. Anyway. Moving on. The song in general, it's similar to a song that I reacted to recently, where they were talking about, the song I reacted to previously. They were talking about a relationship and wanted to kill themselves because the relationship ended. This one, it's talking about, from what I can assume, is talking about self-harm, and I'm not overly fond of the way that they've said it. I mean, I know what they're trying to say, I just don't like the way it's been said. I mean, they're not so much, they're not promoting it, but they're not really trying to say, you know, you shouldn't do it either. You know, it's a sort of grey area in between, and it's a bit iffy. The actual performance, the music was pretty good. It wasn't great. It seemed a bit all over the place in certain places. At certain times, it sounded like the drummer and guitarists were playing 3 different songs. But that's just my personal opinion. That's just how it seemed to me. And the vocal performances, the clean vocals were pretty good, you know. They were clean, obviously, and, you know, good performance. The harsher vocals, the screams, not too keen on the specific style, because like I said before, it sounds more like a teenager screaming at his parents, rather than, you know, an adult trying to emote emotion into a song. So, you know, I wasn't overly fond of the style of the vocal performance, unfortunately. But as I've said before, I won't judge a band just purely on one example of their work, so I will have to check some more of their stuff in the future. And, you know, whilst I like a song to have meaning behind it, and this one did have one, maybe I'm just reading it wrong or interpreting it wrong, I just don't like the way they presented the track, you know. I mean, saying like, this knife is my most important appendage, it's making it sound like the person who is, you know, inflicting this harm upon themselves thinks that it's necessary, you know. They think it's really, really important, and it's not. They never think of it like that way. So, you know, it's... Yeah, like I said before, I know what they're trying to say, I just don't like the way they're saying it. But again, that's just my personal opinion. I could be interpreting the song completely wrong. But anyway, we'll leave it at that, because I could go on for ages about this subject. But yeah, we'll leave that as it is. If anybody else would like to suggest a track for me to react to, please do, by all means. Drop me a comment in the comment section below, or message me on Instagram, and I will add it to my list to come up in the future. So yeah, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.